we're just never talking about this again.
Right. This just causes too much stress and frustration, and we're just not going to address this ever again. Oh, no, because then it's going to fester and it's going to be worse.
Yeah. As opposed to the tactical pause, which says, okay, I'm taking a break, but we're going to come back to this, and we're not going to let this go until we resolve it.
You may be one choice away from a thriving marriage. Welcome to the Operation Thriving Marriage podcast with Brian and Jennifer Harvey.
Welcome to the Operation Thriving Marriage podcast. Brian Harvey here with my co-pilot and the one who actually keeps things on the rails and not going crazy, my wonderful wife, Jen.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Todd, our producer, but...
No, he just makes it sound good. He takes no responsibility for how far off the rails we go.
Oh, that's a good point. he helps facilitate the crazy and make sure it doesn't go too far off the rails,
well,
right?
No, he's like, hey, you guys can go all the way off the rails. I'm just going to make sure that it's EQ'd good and it sounds good while people are listening to you go off the rails, but... He's not going to take any responsibility for that whatsoever.
And he should not. It's like, Todd, we don't want you to take the blame for this. But, just having a great time with this and appreciate you guys listening to us.
So, do people still use the word hoopty when referring to cars?
Probably not.
Probably
Does
not.
anybody know what a hoopty is out there? You tell them, Brian.
Todd's raising his hand. So, there's so many things, but... When I was in high school and younger, cars that they just looked like awful. They were often huge, and they were just in some sort of disrepair, rusting, the black smoke coming out of the back, squealing serpentine belts. It was obvious the car needed to be repaired.
So this is old school. Sir Mix-a-Lot talked about a hoopty, and a hoopty is slang for an old dilapidated or poorly maintained car, often described as a beater, junker, or jalopy.
I'm glad that I did Sir Mix-a-Lot proud with my definition of hoopty.
That's exactly it.
Sir Mix-a-Lot, thank you, my friend. But the thing about that is, you can hear a hoopty coming. You know. I mean, I'm thinking like the bumper scraping on the ground.
Oh, dear.
You can tell when a car needs repaired. You can tell when it's in bad shape.
And maybe that's also why they call it a clunker, because that's what you're hearing.
Clunk, clunk, clunk,
right,
clunk.
right.
Yep. Well, a marriage that needs to be repaired can be just as obvious as a car that needs repaired.
So the question is your marriage a hoopty right now? We've got help for you, my friends.
That's not Todd's fault, and that was not in the outline.
No, it was not.
In this case, though, we're not talking about marriages that are hoopties. I mean, the hoopty marriage is the one where they're walking into the divorce attorney's office.
Right.
I mean, it's like this is over, it's dead, put it out of its misery. We're talking about marriages, though, in which conflict lingers and isn't resolved.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about marriages that haven't repaired the relationship after the conflict ended. So I'm thinking this isn't the hoopty with the clunker and the bumper scraping along the ground. This is more just that car that you can hear that belt squealing at the stoplight. Or they're coming up and, yeah, those brakes, they need to be repaired. It's not falling apart, but there's definitely work to be done.
But it's repairable.
It's repairable.
Absolutely.
But it's obvious that it needs to be repaired.
Okay, I'm an extrovert, so unfortunately, as you're listening to me, Brian,
this is actually really
and
good
listeners,
for the podcast because they get to hear it.
Oh my goodness! Well, I think it's pretty funny about it is you're going to hear, again, what I'm thinking, just because I am an extrovert. I'm thinking of the rapper Exhibit and a TV show called Pimp My Ride. Absolutely. And these were cars that were really falling apart, and they were at that hoopty level. They were not at the level of just being able to be like, this thing needs to be repaired, take it to a mechanic or whatever the case needs to be. So I was just kind of thinking, again.
They looked good at the end. Unfortunately for Exhibit, not all the cars ran as well, but they did look good at the end.
That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. But we want your marriage to, be looking good and functioning properly from the inside out. So let's kind of jump on that, Brian. And
Yeah.
I digress. All kinds of love to exhibit.
Oh, well, this really came from a Facebook post that you shared with me. And it talked about these 6 behaviors for couples who never learned to repair a conflict.
And it's so important, Brian.
So I thought taking this Facebook post and looking at that and talking about the behaviors, and then trying to see if we could possibly help couples listening to the podcast navigate some of these and be able to actually repair that relationship. And what we mean by this, if you listened to the previous episode, we talked about shalom and talked about that idea of how you feel when you know that conflict is over and you've come back together and you have that wholeness and peace. That's what repair looks like. And unfortunately, in a lot of marriages, conflicts will end, they'll stop, but you won't get to that repair
or resolution, right? So
Yeah.
it's like and also I would argue, right, it's like the conflict doesn't end. It's just that particular argument stops, and then that the resolution didn't come, and you got problems because there was no resolution there.
It's like the armistice at the end of World War I. The war never actually ended until we got the peace treaty at the end of World War II.
Right. And that's a problem. And hopefully nobody's dealing with a marriage that they feel like it's a World War kind of situation.
That's probably not the greatest
but
illustration.
no, I think it is. I think that is a good illustration. But again, hopefully nobody out there is listening to that. You might need some extra help from a therapist. And, we talk about that. We encourage therapists getting involved. But just the idea of that signs of that failure to repair, ending versus resolving, the fight ends, but you haven't resolved anything. Maybe you stop the argument because you're tired, or you just want to walk away and not even deal with it anymore. You just want to avoid it. But it's like it stops, not because you're reconnecting or repairing, but you're just, I'm just kind of done with this.
Yeah. And so for the listeners, that's the first sign,
right?
Is that ending versus resolving, is
right.
the fight. You stop fighting, but the conflict isn't over. It's just the conversation.
The conversation stopped, but
just stop talking.
But you didn't resolve that conflict there.
Yeah.
But resolution is more saying, okay, we're back on the same team. We've resolved this. This is in the rearview mirror, as opposed to, we're dragging this along with us like a clunker.
Right. And the second sign of failure to repair, is using sorry as a reset button.
Grr. So that makes me grr. Yeah. That upsets me.
So this is saying sorry to stop the conversation rather than sincerely apologizing. It's that insincere apology. It's a heart issue, not a word issue. The word itself, sorry, isn't the problem. Mm-hmm. It's what's behind the sorry in your heart, in your eyes. I mean, if you're a parent and you've been trying to teach your children about apologies, and how many times you've said, okay, now go say sorry, and there was no sincerity in that.
Right.
It's okay, you're teaching children how to function in the world. But in marriage, if you're just, sorry, or it's just like, sorry. So I remember one time I got called out for this, and it wasn't in our relationship.
Phew.
It was someone had come up and said something. This was when I was a first sergeant. A senior NCO had said something, and then I followed him, and I did a correction in front of the entire squadron. I said, well, actually, and push, I did one of those things, and it was wrong of me, and it was devaluing and dehumanizing to this other senior NCO. And then he confronted me, and I was like, oh, I'm sorry, and tried to walk away. He's like, no, we're going to talk about this. And he called me out for that. That's an example of just, oh, well, I'm just sorry because this is uncomfortable. I don't want to talk about it. So it's this reset button.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And a third one is bringing up old arguments. We did a podcast about this, and we talk about the idea of checking receipts, where it's like, kind of going back through all of these things and, just kind of giving this detailed kind of expense account just as to what these old arguments have been today, because these old arguments probably don't have anything to do with the case at hand here, but you're not arguing about today. You're carrying yesterday as this other kind of a clunker, right?
Right. And again, it's one of those, a lot of that time is like, well, one spouse will bring up something and then the next spouse pulls out their bag of receipts. Well, oh yeah? Well, bam, bam, bam.
Right. This is not a spouse who's getting hysterical. This is a spouse who is getting historical, and that's a big problem.
Yes, yes. So number 4, another sign of failure to repair, according to this Facebook post, was shutting down. One or both spouses just completely withdraws. This is avoidance, not what I like to call the tactical pause, or you've heard us say unplugging, a healthy pause. Avoidance is, we're just never talking about this again.
Right. This just causes too much stress and frustration, and we're just not going to address this ever again. Oh no, because then it's going to fester and it's going to be worse.
Yeah. As opposed to the tactical pause, which says, okay, I'm taking a break, but we're going to come back to this, and we're not going to let this go until we resolve it.
And also, the way that you characterize that, and again, I'm not looking to nitpick, but we're just not going to let this go. It's like, no, we're resolving this. It's not, oh, you can't just let this go. It's like, wait a second here. This is a real issue that's going to cause some problems in our marriage. So we want to make sure that we're addressing this so that it's resolved and everything's good to go here. And there's nothing that is festering.
I think that's an important clarification.
Sure. Another one, and I think this is our 5th one here, is we're talking about the cold atmosphere. And I mean, to me, this is just punishment upon punishment in a house where you've got days of distance between you. No one knows how to reconnect. And then this is the, really disgusting marination in anger. And you're not neutral at all about your spouse. You are actively drifting apart here. And the reason that a lot of times I talk about the concept of marinating in anger is because, if you were to take chicken and you put it in a marinade, it's going to infiltrate that chicken or whatever piece of meat it is and just change it forever because it just permeates and gets into it. I mean, it can make for a tasty dish, but if you're marinating yourself in anger, you're going to have problems upon problems. And I mean, the good news is, I suppose, if we're continue with the analogy, Jesus is such a fabulous head chef that he can suck the marinade, right? The anger marinade out of anybody, which is an awesome thing.
I'm going to use that from now on.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, that's a good one. Anger marinade.
Right. But again, you don't want there to be that cold atmosphere where you've got these days of distance. You don't know how to reconnect rather. Your spouse doesn't know how to reconnect. Again, stay away from that anger marination because that's all kinds of problems.
And then the last one from the post is growing distance. Mm-hmm. The couple's not closer after a fight, they're further apart. And you can see just over time, I mean, we've all seen this in churches or in different friend groups where the couple just, every time you see them, they seem a little bit more distant from each other.
Sure. So sad.
Here's the thing. If conflict doesn't lead to repair, it will always lead to distance. There is no neutral.
Truth. And that's a hard truth, but that's true.
How do we repair? How do we deal with this and not live into this growing distance, the cold atmosphere, and everything we've talked about? Matthew 5:23-24, Jesus says, "So then, if you bring your gift to the altar, and there remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled to your brother, and then come and present your gift." So the first thing is realizing Jesus commands that we repair relationships before we worship him. Mm-hmm. And this applies to all relationships, including marriage. So it's not like, oh, well, my brother or my friend, so I've got to go to... No, if you're about to worship God and this isn't, oh, and I have something against my spouse. Like, no, your spouse has something against you.
Sure.
You go to them and you work to reconcile. Go and be reconciled. Bring that to a close. Bring the plane in for a landing and bring that relationship back into wholeness and shalom. Another one of my favorite passages in Scripture, and this is actually something that I've learned to recite daily in my life as a reminder, Mark 12:28-31. Now one of the experts in the law came and heard them debating. When he saw that Jesus answered them well, he asked him, "Which commandment is the most important of all?" Jesus answered, "The most important is, 'Listen, O Israel, The Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. The second is this: love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than these, and there's no neighbor closer to you than your spouse.
Yes.
So that loving your neighbor, Jesus just put it flat out there. It's like, if you are not loving your neighbor, that is equal to loving God with all that you are. And so that requires working through and processing repair in your relationship. Thriving couples don't avoid conflict. They learn how to repair it. They follow what Jesus is saying in the Gospels, and they are reconciled to each other through the conflict.
And I think something that we need to keep in mind too is we need to define success in dealing with conflict. So it's not going to be we solved the issue perfectly.
No.
Success, it's like, again, this is a journey. This is over and over again, kind of perfecting this. So the idea of, okay, success is going to be we're close again, because the success is strengthening and growing the relationship. It's not about the issues that we resolve themselves. And, we can get better and better with that over time. But the idea is, again, do you want to win the argument or do you want to be close? Well, we're not talking about winning, because if anybody wins the argument, you both lose. So
Absolutely.
Just the idea is, how are we growing closer? How are we connecting and reconnecting there? And also just that concept of moving beyond just the sorry, right? That real repair includes not just the word sorry, right? Ownership of what was done wrong, incorrectly, what was potentially neglected. Also, that real repair is going to be building understanding. It's like, we had different takes on this. I had a different understanding. You had a different understanding. And it's not about, again, who's right, who's wrong. Hopefully we have better understandings and can connect better now. And then the third, of course, is going to be rebuilding that kind of trust that you have between each other. Because remember, forgiveness is always key in a marriage. And I don't think a marriage can survive or be healthy without repeated forgiveness. But forgiveness is releasing that debt that you believe that your spouse would owe to you. But that restoration is returning connection, that reconnection, coming back together. And, we're a team, we're one, and we're moving forward together, even though we had to address some hurt here, and we made sure that we were appropriately repairing in moving forward.
Yeah, I think another thing is stay in the present.
Okay.
Don't, quote unquote, kitchen sink the argument. What I mean by that, and this is something that Jen taught me I think it was when you were in law school that you're taking, where you throw everything in the kitchen sink at the case, hoping that something sticks.
Right, yeah.
Couples will do that. They're like, oh, well, I'm going to bring in everything, every slight. This is, again, bringing in the receipts. Don't do that. Deal with one thing at a time. Deal with the current conflict in the present tense.
That's exactly right.
Deal with what's going on now. Now, if there's something else that is lingering from the past, deal with that next, but it's dealing with them one at a time. You can't deal with everything especially if this is a relationship where you haven't been thriving for a while.
Sure.
There's a lot of repairs that need to happen.
Mm-hmm.
There's only the two of you. You can only work on one part of the car at a time. So fix one part, then the next one, then repair the next one. And then as you keep repairing, your relationship will grow stronger. It'll be healthier, and close loops fully.
Mm-hmm.
Finish things. Okay, we talked about this. Being an Air Force guy, I like the phraseology. Let's bring this in for a landing. Let's close this up. Okay,
so Air Force, yes.
Hey, aim high.
That's right.
So bring this in for landing. Let's get this down on the ground so it's not just lingering, wasting fuel.
We talk about the tactical pause, the unplugging, the healthy pause, just to do that the right way. It's like, again, you're stepping away for a finite, limited period of time, regulate yourself and to be able to be healthy and emotionally stable, to be able to come back to address the issue. So you're stepping away, but you have the intentionality of that, where it's like you're saying, we're going to come back to this, we're going to resolve this. You're not just saying, okay, I'm done with this issue and we're not talking about this anymore just because I don't want to be uncomfortable or I feel like this can't be resolved. It's instead you're stepping away to regulate with that intention of making sure you get into a better spot to be able to come back, discuss, address, repair, resolve, and move forward in a very positive, united way in your marriage.
I think of this as I can't talk about this right now, not I don't want to talk about this ever.
Sure.
It's like I just right now I need a moment, I need some time, and then we'll come back to it, but I can't right now.
But also sometimes, let's be honest, you don't want to talk about it now. You don't want to talk about it ever, but you know you have to,
Well,
or this is something that you need to do. But like you said, it's a tactical pause where it's like, okay, even though maybe I don't want to talk about this, this is not delaying, this is preparing.
Yeah.
And then coming back to that to build up and build into that marriage to make it better than it was before. And then we also talked about, the refuse to marinade, right?
Yes. Yeah. Don't let the distance linger.
Mm-hmm.
Don't, so we recently were talking to a couple and they were kind of trying to deal with what's the difference between avoidance and tactical pause.
Right.
Sometimes what needs to happen is, okay, I'm respecting your pause here. When will you be ready to discuss this again? We can't just let this linger forever.
And the person that's pausing can't just hold that over the other spouse's head.
No, and it's one of those, you can't change your spouse. You can only change you. Both of you working to grow more in Christ-likeness, more in holiness will build a thriving marriage. But sometimes that means bringing up to your spouse things like, hey, what can we do? And stay committed, even if the resolution takes time. Mm-hmm. This is not a sitcom. Your marriage is not a sitcom. You're not going to resolve every conflict in 30 minutes with commercial breaks. Mm-hmm. You're not. This isn't even like The Pit, where in 15 episodes it's one shift and then you're done. This could take a while. Some of these things, depending on how deeply hurt you are, how long you've been letting this go. These repairs may take longer, may take days, maybe sometimes weeks. And maybe sometimes you need to bring in the expert and talk to a therapist on how to get through this because you can't repair it on your own.
Sure.
But refuse to let it just linger. It's like, well, this is just irreconcilable. Mm-hmm. Irreconcilable is not a classification of objectivity. That's subjective. Mm-hmm. It's irreconcilable because I don't think or I don't want to reconcile it. There's no such thing as an objective irreconcilable difference. It's a choice you make to be reconciled or not.
Right. Although, again, in California, irreconcilable differences, that's a divorce, friends. You gotta reconcile these differences.
But they chose that.
Exactly. They chose that, right?
To be,
That's exactly it. And our final one is just choosing closeness over being right. So, again, you can win all of the arguments, but, the other spouse is looking at this is how many times was I dismissed? How many times did my spouse choose distance? Mm-hmm. That win, which actually caused distance over, choosing the spouse. So, that's something to keep in mind there, because repair is that skill that is going to turn conflict into connection and going for that repair, that resolution, so that you are reconnected as a couple.
Your marriage will not be defined by how often you fight, but by how well you repair. If any of those 6 signs describes you, it doesn't mean that your marriage is broken. It doesn't mean that things are off the rails and that it's over. It just means you got some work to do. Thriving marriages are not the ones that don't have conflict. They're the ones that grow closer through the conflict. They're the ones that learn how to repair.
And thank you for joining us for this episode of Operation Thriving Marriage. Please rate and review us, and that's going to give us some more visibility so that we can have some other people come along and check out our podcast episodes. And please do tell a friend about us. Thanks for joining us, and please tune in next time.
Jen and I started Operation Thriving Marriage to help couples and churches take marriages from merely surviving to thriving. We've got our book, we've got a blog, and resources for our coaching ministry, and you can bring us out for an Operation Thriving Marriage experience. For more information, go to operationthrivingmarriage.com. That's operationthrivingmarriage.com.